Okay, so we are recording. Welcome to our specific JROTC welcome introduction to the aerial drone competition. JROTC is, don't tell anybody else, but it's absolutely the best group of coaches and event partners that we have. And it really has been a lot of fun to work with JROTC instructors. And so we are excited to be able to do this and welcome all of the newbies, as somebody said earlier, that we have a lot of newbies. Glad that you're here. First of all, just want to let you know who your team is. The REC Foundation is Robotics Education and Competition Foundation. We are very similar to the NCAA or the Olympic Committee. We create the competitions, we create the rules, we create the documentation, we host the webinars. All of us have been where you are. And our drone team, because this is a new developing program for the REC Foundation, our largest program is our VEX robotics programs that we've been doing for about 15 years. That has grown in that time span to 30,000 teams in almost 90 countries. The aerial drone competition is in its fifth year, kind of. COVID kind of happened in the middle. We also switched vendors in the middle with moving from For the Win to RoboLink. So in that sense, with the style of game that we're doing now, it's really more like the second or third year. So you are at the beginning of what is really going to be a legacy. Last year, we ended the season with about 1,600 teams, a little over 1,600 teams registered. But about 4 years ago, we had around 40 in the entire U.S. So it is really, really growing rapidly, exponentially. And our team has grown. Luann Cormier started the aerial drone competition as the program manager, and she is located in New England area. She serves the Northeast region. Nadine is on the call. Nadine was the second to join the drone competition team, and she is located in Hattiesburg, Biloxi, Mississippi, and she serves the West region as well as the South Central region. I'm Shelly Brasher. I only wear the sparkly hat to championship events, so get your team there, and then you'll recognize me from my picture. But I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, from Memphis, Tennessee, and I serve North Central and the Southeast regions, and I was the third to come on board in the aerial drone competition. And then finally, Lisa Schultz is our the number one, who is number four, and she is doing all of our international. So what we've been able to do is actually include Canada in with the U.S. So our Canadian teams this year are going to be competing with West, North Central, and Northeast regions this year. But then we also are forming teams and programs in other countries, including Greece, Mexico, Kuwait. I think there's some others, but those are a couple. So it's really a lot going on right now, but it's a super exciting time to be involved and to get started. So number one, this is an indoor drone competition. It is not a race. It is a challenge. And because it is an indoor drone competition, students don't have to have all of the licenses that are required for an outdoor drone competition. We do recommend the trust certification, but they are not required to have a Part 107. That would be what they would need if they were using a larger drone and they are performing outside and in airspace that might be secured. We do not have to deal with any of that with being an indoor competition and using the type of drone that we're using. They're going to learn about drones, even though they're using a really small drone. The concepts are the same. They're going to learn about flight principles. They're going to learn about coding. They can code with either Blockly or Python. They are going to learn how to keep a flight log and gather that documentation, as well as be able to present the documentation in a logical way, and critical thinking and problem solving. All of these are turned into fun. As a former teacher, Nadine and I are both retired classroom teachers. And so as a former teacher, we've both seen these programs make an impact on students. And the number one thing is that they come in because it's fun. And then they learn so much and they end up having a career path when it's all said and done. Whether or not they go into aviation, okay, the things that they're going to learn along the way are going to help them in whatever career choice that they do make. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Nadine, who's going to talk about why drones. We've been doing robotics, ground robotics for all this time. Why now drones?
Thank you, Shelley. So as Shelley mentioned, there are numerous skills that the students will be utilizing as they participate in the aerial drone competition. And the drone serves as the catalyst for their motivation to be able to work sometimes even at a higher level than what you might see in a traditional classroom. So in addition to those skills that the students are using, we know that the drones are finding their way in our everyday lives. And just about every industry now is utilizing the drone technology in some fashion. And so in order to get students more comfortable with that technology, this is a great time to introduce drones into the JROTC classroom. We are also seeing that the drones are attracting students from backgrounds that maybe aren't traditionally interested in the STEM competitions. And we're seeing that the drones in some ways are easier for implementation into the classroom than our traditional robotics. Likewise, the demand for drone pilots and programmers is on the rise. We're seeing that by the year 2025, they're expecting to have 100,000 jobs for drone pilots. Currently, there are a lot of jobs for drone pilots that are going unfilled because there aren't very many people qualified for those positions. And so the drone being introduced to students now will provide them with awareness of possible career opportunities in the future. Okay, so I think, Shelley, the next slide will be the competition. So if you would introduce the competition.
Just a little bit about the competition. First, a disclaimer, the actual rules are in the competition game manual and on the official Q&A. So if I happen to slip up something, which happens sometimes, then don't hold me to it. So that's my disclaimer, and here we go. So in the competition, first of all, the competition season, I know that at this stage in the game, we often get a lot of concerns about we're late getting started. No, you really aren't. So we open the team registration in the spring. So this registration season actually opened in April, but it's only because a lot of schools will have money at the end of the year and that they have to spend before June 1st or July 1st. And if they don't spend it, then they lose it. And so we go ahead and open team registration early so that they can spend that money and go ahead and get their team registration set up early. During the summer months, teams that are already kind of in the program, they do a lot of fundraising. They have summer camps. They do a lot of outreach to expand. They might work with younger students. So there's a lot of those kinds of things that are going on in the summer. In Grand Junction, Michigan, there's an organization that is doing birthday parties for a fundraiser. They're doing drone birthday parties. They're charging $250 for 10 children. Parents bring pizza and cake, and they let the kids fly drones for 2 hours. And they set up their game field elements and they let them fly. And then, that group goes out. An hour later, another group comes in. So there's really creative ways to do some of this, and a lot of times the summer is the perfect time to do it. But actually, September 10th was the beginning of the season. September 10th is when Mission 2025 game was released. There were a lot of watch parties. It was a lot of fun. A lot of them were posted on Facebook, and you could see the kids' reactions when they first saw the game. So you'll be able to experience that firsthand with your own students when you start looking at the game and the game rules. Now through March is when we're going to have regular local qualifying events. And these events are some of them are 12 team. Some of them are 40 team. Whatever the case may be, the winners at each of these 12 to 40 team events are going to earn a spot at the regional championship for whatever region that they're in. So whether it's Northeast, Southeast, North Central, etc., they will earn a position there. They will also, at each of these competitions, record what we call skills scores. And the skills scores are going to follow them throughout the season. They'll be able to accumulate the skills scores. And even if they don't win a trophy at one of their local events, their skill score could very possibly make them eligible for a championship, and they would be invited based on that criteria to a championship. December 13th is the deadline for registering teams. So a lot of times teams won't plan to compete until January or February, and they miss that deadline. So it's really important that even if you're not going to compete right away, go ahead and get those teams registered right away. April, that's when our regional championships start. It's also at, we've got a few championships that are specific to JROTC. There is one that is being planned for Navy in February that is going to be at Ole Miss in University of Mississippi, and it's going to be held. Date hasn't been exactly set yet, but you'll be getting more information on that. And that is open to all Navy JROT teams and is sort of a Navy championship, if you will. It's not officially a championship, but they're calling it the Drone Derby. All right, now Army is also going to have a championship event, and it's called the Army Bowl, and it is scheduled for March 7th and 8th, and it's going to be at Fort Benning in Columbus, Georgia, or Fort Moore, Georgia. And at that event, it will be all Army JROTC will be competing, and that event is going to run probably 40 to 50 teams, I would imagine, and you'll be getting more information on those too. Just throwing these out there so that you can save the date. The regional championships that are open to all of our teams, JROTC, everybody else, those championships are going to be held between April 11th, which is the Southeast is the first one, all the way to the first part of June. And so we can look at those towards the end if we want to get that deep. Okay, so speaking of game release, I don't know if you've seen it or not. So, if you haven't, sit tight. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. It is Mission 2025 Gravity. Now, let's see if it'll let me play. Hang on, let me find where I get to play.
Introducing the 2024 to 2025 Aerial Drone Competition, Mission 2025, Gravity. Gravity includes 4 missions for teams to complete. They include teamwork, piloting, autonomous flight, and communications. Played on a 20-foot by 20-foot competition field, the teamwork mission has 2 drone teams, competing as an alliance in a 90-second-long teamwork match, working collaboratively to score as many points as possible. Alliances will earn points for maneuvering balls into scoring zones and using gravity to maneuver beanbags onto drop zones. Alliances that have precision flying skills may guide the beanbags and balls into the color of their choice. Balls and beanbags on or in the same color are considered color matched. The more color matched game objects your alliance has, the more points you earn. In Mission 2025 Gravity, alliances may add balls to the field during the match in order to increase their score from designated loading stations. There are 2 loading stations. One is visible to the pilot, and the other is obscured. Because the pilot cannot see the ball's location, the observer's help is required to navigate the balls through the track. As the match comes to a close, alliances can earn points by landing their drones on a cube or a landing pad. Teams score more points for a precision landing in the center bullseye or small cube. During the piloting skills mission, pilots will fly the drone on a flight path for 60 seconds. During this mission, pilots will earn points for completing a figure 8, flying through a panel, flying through keyhole gates, and landing before the timer runs out. Team programmers have the opportunity to show off their coding skills during an autonomous flight mission. Teams will place their drone in a legal starting position, hit run on their program, and earn points for each task successfully completed. Throughout the competition, judges will be interviewing teams to earn judged awards based on their communication skills and competition logbooks. Check out the team interview and competition logbook rubric at drones.recf.org to learn more about this mission. We are excited to see all of our teams show off their skills at an upcoming aerial drone competition. To learn more about the aerial drone competition and read the official rules of Mission 2025 Gravity, visit drones.recf.org. Good luck, and we'll see you on the competition field soon. Introducing the 2024 to 2025 Aerial Drone Competition.
Okay, doesn't that look fun? All right, that came at you pretty quick. So we're gonna go through and kind of break down each part of the competition. Think about the competition as kind of like a gymnastics competition where you've got the parallel bars going over here, and you've got the floor routine over there, and you've got the vault over here. There are actually 4 parts to the aerial drone competition mission, or 4 missions, I should say, to the aerial drone competition. The first one is probably the most popular that everybody considers to be the tournament, and it is the piloting teamwork mission. This is where they're going to play multiple matches with a partner, and that's what you saw on the field where they had an obscured area, so they're using visual observers in order to give directions to the pilot. The second part is the autonomous flight skills. So this is where they are on a field by themselves, and they're using coding, either Blockly or Python, to code the drone to maneuver through an obstacle course. The piloting skills mission is very similar, except it's all pilot controlled using the controller, and it is kind of like a race in order for them to complete the largest number of tasks in the time period that they're allowed. And then finally, the communications mission. This is their documentation of the competition logbook, and it is their interviews that they will get from the judges at the event. So that makes up the 4 missions, and collectively, they make up the entire day when you're at a tournament. So looking first at the teamwork mission, again, 2 teams play collaboratively. These are teams that are randomly matched at the event. So a lot of times one misconception is that people think, well, if I have 2 teams, then that means that they're going to play together all day. Nope. They might randomly be matched with each other. We call that a sister team if they have another team in the competition, but it doesn't always happen. And so they are randomly matched. This forces collaboration. It forces them to talk with other teams about strategy. And this, really opens up some of our students that struggle with that piece. They'll usually play 6 to 8 matches at a tournament, and each match is 90 seconds. After the 6th match, the lowest score is dropped. So anything can happen at that point after the 6th match. It's anybody's game. So this is the field that the teamwork mission is played on. It's a 20 by 20 foot field. It's actually made up of field elements, which are the arch gates and the boxes and the landing pad and the blackout curtain. It also has game elements. Game elements are the platforms that you see with the the blue and green drop zones. Also, the balls are part of the game element kit. So we're going to talk about equipment a little bit later on, but I wanted you to notice that what you would be getting with those kits are combined in order to create this field. Now, the one piece that you're not going to get when you purchase equipment through drone competition gates or through robot events is the PVC. The PVC that you see there is purchased locally, and the perimeter 20 by 20 perimeter is only needed for a legal competition. If you're just using this to practice, then you would only need the part that creates the maze and the track in the interior of the field. All right, so they mentioned in the video sort of how this works. Each team can have 3 members on the field at a time. And so you're going to have 6 people on the field, possibly. Now, you may have teams that only have 1 student. That's fine. Then that student would be the pilot. They would rely on their teammates, their alliance member, the other team that they're playing with, to help in the other roles. So it's very flexible for you to work with various sizes of groups. The pilot and maybe co-pilot are going to be in this area that's yellow. And then back behind the blackout curtain is where you're going to have your other members that are going to be loading the balls. They're going to be putting them in the track, and then the drone will fly back there and they will scoot them using the downdraft towards the scoring goals, which are near the front of the field. The visual observers are also back here. They are motioning using whatever method of communication that they want that is not electronic, using sign language or just visual cues in order to direct the pilot on how to fly the drone behind the curtain. This year is a color match game. Every year the game changes. This year is an interesting concept because the idea is to get these bean bags on top of each of these pedestals. The 7 pedestals is a little yellow bean bag. And the idea is for the drone to come on top of the beanbag and through the downdraft to make it drop onto either blue or green. The other team's over here working on the balls. They're trying to get the balls through the track, and they're trying to get the balls either in blue or green, but they're trying to match up together with what the other teammate is doing. By doing that, if they can get everything blue on the field, that's how they're going to be able to maximize their score. Or everything green. If they have some balls in blue, some balls in green, then they are scored accordingly. They're still scored as a multiplier. It just won't give them the highest number of points. A lot of the students and even some of the teachers, some of the best on game design were like, okay, well, how does that work? Isn't it the same? It really doesn't matter. Let the students do some scenarios, have them work out, if they had everything in blue, what does that look like? They have half in blue, half in green. What does that look like? And, have them work out some different scenarios with the scoring so that they can develop their own strategy. Now, at the end of this 6 to 8 matches where they have been randomly paired, we go into alliance selection. All right, this is like playground pick. So while those first matches, they've all been just matched with somebody, and that other team may be really good and they may be not very good. You just never know who you're going to be matched with. But once you get into the finals, teams get to choose who they are going to play with in the finals matches. Whoever is ranked first at that time gets first pick. Whoever's ranked second, and it goes on down the line. So we start off with, in a 20-team event, for example, there would be 10 alliances. If there are 24 teams at an event, there are still only going to be 10. There are going to be 4 teams that won't play in the finals. Once those 10 alliances are selected, so 20 teams of 2 are selected, then they are going to play out the quarterfinals. And the 4 alliances with the highest score are going to advance to the semifinals. They'll play out a match, and then the 2 highest scores advance to the finals, and then the finals play out to determine a winner in the teamwork mission. That's only one piece of the competition. All right, I'm going to pass on to Nadine to talk about the skills missions.
Thanks, Shelley. So as Shelley gave you a brief overview of the teamwork mission, I'm going to give a brief overview of the piloting mission and the autonomous skills mission. But I did want to point out that for all of the details and the exact rules and scoring, you and your teams will want to look very closely at the competition manual, because there are certain sections for each of the missions included in that competition manual And it's a great idea for the teams to actually read through the manual and analyze the rules and the objectives of each of the missions so that they can better strategize. So one of the things we really love about the aerial drone competition is that it is an open-ended type competition where the teams who are just beginning, or even our younger teams, can find success within the program, while the teams who have been with us for a few years or are older or have a little bit more advanced skills, they can still find challenge within the program. So being a student-centered program allows those opportunities. So our piloting mission, as Shelley mentioned, is sort of like a race. Teams go to the field working with their drone and their team members in 60-second matches to see how many times they can complete the tasks that are set up in an obstacle format. So you'll notice the field is different from the teamwork field that you saw a few moments ago. So the skills field for piloting and autonomous are the same. So they look exactly as you see in the picture, but the rules vary just slightly between the two skills missions. So in the piloting skills mission, the students will have a specific flight path that they need to follow. They'll need to complete those tasks in a particular order in order to gain points for each of the tasks. They may end their flight path at any point to go and land, and they'll get points up until the landing, but they can't skip task and continue on in that path in the obstacle course. Okay, let's see if the next slide. So for the autonomous flight mission, the students will be programming their drone. So they'll have 2 5-minute sessions, and during those programming sessions, the team can do up to 3 matches or 3 runs. Within their match, the teams are allowed 1 reset for their drone per match. And so the specifics of that, again, will be explained in the competition manual. One thing that is unique, different about the autonomous skills match and the piloting skills match is that we have the students utilizing the programming mats and the color mats. And so the students will roll a dice at the beginning of each of their runs at the programming field. And depending upon the number that they roll, they will need to place the color mats in a certain spot, as shown in this diagram. So there are 6 different scenarios that they may be given at their match. And one of the reasons we have this included in the programming is we want the students to try to look at programming with the color sensor, rather than just having them write a simple program to tell the drone to change colors based on the scenario. We hope that they will look at the options that are allowed in the CoDrone EDU with the color sensor. So the programming mats are changed for each of their runs. And as I mentioned earlier, they do have the opportunity to reset their drone once in each of the runs that they make. But if they decide to reset their drone, it has to be on the color mat 2, as in the diagram. So in this skills mission, in the autonomous skills mission, the students have a lot of autonomy and a lot of choices that they can make. This is, again, an opportunity for them to strategize, to look at the number of points that each task would give them for completing during this mission, and determine what would be the best options for them for their programming. So they do not have to follow a set order in this mission. So they may choose to take off and complete the figure 8 like you see in the picture, and then go through the keyhole gates and land. Another team may decide that they want to go through the panel, then do a figure 8 and go through both of the keyhole gates, and then land. So it's very open-ended. Students are able to strategize and determine what will work best for them in the autonomous skills mission. So in our competition, students will have opportunities to win awards, and we'll be talking about that later, but their highest piloting skills match and their highest autonomous skills match will be added together by our software, and the teams will be ranked according to their performance in those missions. The team with the highest combined score will be the skills mission champion at our tournament. Again, this is just showing that there are multiple ways to solve the problem, and different strategies will be tried by students, and we encourage them to do that. We encourage them to recognize that there's not just one correct way to solve this challenge in the autonomous skills mission. So you'll see a variety of strategies being used at the competition by teams, and multiple ways to get points in this competition. Students, like Shelley mentioned, can use the Blockly style programming, or they can use the Python programming with the CodeDrone EDU. So Shelley, if you'll talk just a little bit about the communications mission.
Yes. So the communications mission, students either right before the competition or on the day of the competition, they are going to submit a competition logbook. Now, if you are just getting started and this is one of the hiccups, like you're not sure that that you have enough information to do the logbook and to guide the students in doing the logbook, you want to get to a tournament very early, it's okay if you don't turn in a logbook. Every team is going to get a team interview. By turning in the logbook, it does make the team eligible for other awards that are related to their documentation, and that's good. So if you have your team is not having a good day, but they really have a good logbook documentation, they can show the iterative process that they are using in strategy, in the coding, and they can talk about it. Like, this goes a long way with the judges, and this can make them eligible for additional awards. All right, so there are basically two rubrics, and these are not a secret. These are available to you, and I know that this is teeny tiny and you can't see it, but if you go to any event on robotevents.com, aerial drone competition event, and you look at the documents tab, there's going to be a few tabs. They say agenda, emergency weather, general info. There's going to be a documents tab. Every event, aerial drone competition event, under documents is going to have the competition logbook rubric, and it's also going to have the interview rubric as well. It's going to have sample questions available to you in our library. Everything that the judges are going to have to work with you, you're going to have as well. Another great place that I'll give Nadine credit that she worked a lot on this over the summer is that in the judging and our judging materials, in part 6 of the judging materials, she has specified, she's put the information in the chat. She has specified in part 6 the content and how the competition logbook would be laid out. It looks at project management skills, data analysis, teamwork, credentials, like have the students taken the trust exam? Have they taken the Getting Started course that is on the RoboLink website and done the pilot certification test with that? Have they researched drone careers? So all of these things are outlined as pieces of the logbook, of the competition logbook, and are part of the judging process. And then the interview rubric looks almost the same. It's actually those same topics, except we're asking students to talk about it. And so the judges at an event will go find them at their table where they're working, and they will talk to them, and they will ask them to share what they're doing and how their team is structured, and how leadership is emerging, all of those kinds of things. All right, Nadine. So now we're going to kind of get to the start. Like, you're ready to form your team. What does that look like?
So we hope that what you've heard so far hasn't made anyone feel like a little bit overwhelmed as far as the competition. Our goal tonight is to help you to see the benefit that offering the aerial drone competition to your students would have for them, not only in the competition itself, but for encouraging them to even do better in their skills that they're utilizing now in their classrooms, but also opening up doors to their potential for a future career. So to get started with your team, it's pretty simple. The good news is that the students do the work. So you are there as their guide. So you're a mentor for the students. It's a student-centered program. We want them making as many decisions as possible. So you don't have to know anything about the drone or anything about programming in order to be a wonderful coach and the biggest cheerleader for your students. And so as you begin to build your aerial drone competition team, we say that typically we have an average of 3 to 5 students on a team. By having a smaller number on your team, it gives the students more opportunities to actually be hands-on with the drone and involved with the programming. Students will have a variety of roles that they can play on the team. So our primary roles when they go to the field, they can have 3 team members actively participating in a match. So a pilot, a co-pilot, and a visual observer can go to the field each time your team is competing in any of those missions that we talked about earlier. You would also have a role of programming with your team. So as you and your team, you and your students decide how to organize your team, there are several different ways that you can do that. Students may decide that they want to specialize in certain roles where they're, using their strengths to help their team. Other teams, and I love to see this happen, the teams rotate those roles. So at one match, you may have one student who is the pilot, and in the next match, that student may actually be the visual observer. By rotating those roles within the team, in my opinion, it gives the students the opportunity to become more well-rounded and to be able to develop skills that maybe they weren't as comfortable with in the beginning. But it is a decision that you and your teams will make as far as how you want to assign those responsibilities or have teams select those responsibilities. In addition to those primary roles, there are other jobs that your teams may, your students may want to participate with. So you could have a team captain, you could have a flight safety personnel manager, you could have someone who's mostly in charge of the documentation in the logbook if that's something that your team would like to do. So you'll just need a drone and some students, and we can help you with the rest. On the next slide, as a coach, you'll do the things that the students can't do. So registering the teams, managing the schedule for the team, placing the orders, making sure that the students have a safe environment where they're practicing and a very encouraging place to learn, organizing any travel to competitions. Those would be the roles that you would have. And we have a pro tip here where on RoboLink's website, they have a course. It's called the Getting Started course, and it has 7 lessons that we encourage our new coaches and all of our students to complete to become familiar with the drone before you actually start any of your real practicing with your teams. And now we'll take a look at the equipment. And I do know that some of our JROTC brigades, you probably have already gotten your equipment. So this may look familiar to you as Shelley talked about equipment.
Okay, so of course the drone, the most important piece of equipment, we use the Co-Drone EDU. and RoboLink is a fabulous vendor that provides that product. There is also a Co-Drone EDU JROTC edition, and the JROTC edition functions the same. There's not a competitive advantage over the regular Co-Drone EDU. It's just that it has components that are legal and that are allowed by the Department of Defense or the JROTC funding sources. They are able to purchase those. You are able to purchase those with that money. Often we get the question that a JROTC instructor will inherit a school. They already have the regular co-drones, and that's fine. You can play with those. It's just that you can only purchase the JROTC edition if you're using money that is allocated from a federal source. It has 7 sensors. So we mentioned the codes, or excuse me, the color sensor, and using the color mats. The way that it works is that the drone will fly over and land on one of the color mats, and then the LED light on top will turn that color, showing that it has recognized the color mat. There's also other things on that autonomous field that create obstacles, like for them to go through the keyhole gate. There is a black board panel that fits on that pole. And so the drone is able to use the front sensor to go up to that panel. And once it finds it, then it can go up vertically and find the keyhole to be able to go through. So it has a gyroscope built in, an accelerometer. Like, there's a lot of diagnostic information that is available on the controller window. So this can be for younger students at one level, but it can also really fit a really advanced student at the high school level, that is working with XYZ axis and a whole variety of math and physics concepts. So this is the JROTC edition. It is $100 more, and this is what it looks like, and this is what you get in that kit. You also get some of these ancillary materials in the regular Co-Drone kit too, like you're going to get these color cards. So this is for you to practice using that color sensor with. There's all kinds of activities for coding that are available at the RoboLink website. In Basecamp is what they call their learning environment. They have Blockly and Python, and they have multiple modules for coding in beginner, intermediate, and advanced levels in each one of those. And this is the plain Jane Co-Drone EDU, if you will. And you can see all of the items there are very similar with what you get. And I think Nadine put in the chat about the controllers and batteries and all being interchangeable. Okay, field elements. All right, so the field element kit is what you see right here. It has the arch gates, it has the blackout screen, it has keyhole gates, the boxes, and landing pads. And this is $1,000. And this is the part of the game field that is used year after year in a different way. So if you went back and looked at some previous games, so this year the game is Gravity, but last year was Eclipse, you would see these same elements used in a different way than they are in this current game. The game elements, these are the ones that are not used every year. In the game element kit, you're going to get the programming mats. That's the black and gray and white splotchy mats. We use those in the programming skills because a lot of times tournaments are held in different places on the gym floor. There may be lines on the gym floor that might interfere with coding. It may be on carpet that has some type of we're going to talk about that in just a minute, Carl. There may be a pattern on the carpet that would interfere. So you get these coding mats, you get the color mats, you get balls, bean bags, the 7 platforms with the drop zones, and then the panel with the cutouts. And that is $350. Also required is the PVC, especially if you're running a tournament, and that's going to run about $200. But we talk to coaches all the time, and they tell us that if you go to the Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards, that often that they will donate that all of it, at least some of. And then those are pieces as well that are used year after year. The PVC, we try to take into account once you have created the PVC for this game, what pieces that you have. You have so many 18-inch, so many couplers, so many 90-degree connectors. And so we keep in mind what you already have. So when we're creating future games, we try to make sure that you're able to reuse most, if not all of that, and not have to purchase a lot more each year. We try to keep those costs down. Um, Funding, I know that, everybody would love to have the game elements, but you may not have $1,350 just laying around. And so there are a lot of ways to practice without these. There are many, many teams that practice without these. You can create these field elements with hula hoops, with pool noodles, with goodness, uh, the like PEX plumbing materials. There's all kinds of things that you can do. If you are trying to work with the students and get them to practice on precision flight, I tell them to take some of their chairs, set them on top of their tables, and practice going in and out of the legs and over and around the chair. And that will help them to prepare for the types of piloting skills that they're going to need to use in both teamwork and piloting. So there's a lot of ways to prepare for this without having to have the actual equipment. All of the measurements are given in the competition manual. And so that also makes it where you can lay things out and you can experiment without having the actual field elements. Okay, so before we go into registration fee, the question came up about some of the brigades offering these elements, and the answer is yes, maybe, because it depends. We have not figured out what the algorithm is on who is having these provided, which brigades are buying them for everybody, which brigades are buying them only for a few schools, which brigades are buying them. Some of them are doing only for a district, like they'll buy 4 or 5 sets, and then they expect that maybe this district, this group of JROTC teams will all come together at one location, and they'll practice together, and they'll even have a tournament together. So there's a lot of different strategies that the different brigades are using for that. The best thing to do is to reach out to your DAI, or if you're not in the Army, if whoever is your district organizer, your brigade leader, or your section leader, and ask if they've got STEM monies that are available to purchase these items. Nadine, you want to take registration fee?
Yes. So with the registration fee, on the next slide, it shows that we have 2 different types of registration fees that are a part of our program. So the first registration fee is what we call our season registration fee. And in order to participate in the aerial drone competition, that's a per team fee. It's $175 per team per season. And those funds go to the RAC Foundation, and they help cover the cost of the program. So it helps us be able to have regional support managers that are able to answer your questions and support you and your teams throughout the season, so that we can provide coach and event partner training materials and our website and information that we have shared with you tonight. It also helps us to provide the scoring software, tournament manager software, that is used at the competition to make the competition run smoothly. And usually many of our organizations and schools will have more than one team per school. They often tell us that it's more exciting for the students and gives them the opportunity to really collaborate if they do have multiple teams at the school. So we do see that as a very common practice. So once per season, each team that wants to compete will pay the $175 per team in robot events. The other type of registration fees will be when your team goes to a competition. So if they go to a tournament or a championship, there will be a fee associated with that registration as well. And that again will be per team. For our local tournaments, we typically see that fee being about $50 up to $100 is usually the maximum on a local competition. If you go to a championship event, of course, that amount would be more. In the past, our regional championship fees were $300 per team for a regional championship. But those fees do not go to the RAC Foundation. Those fees go to the person or the organization that's hosting the competition, and they help them to be able to cover the cost of holding that competition, because there's often rental fees involved. They need to provide the competition fields and the game elements that Shelley was showing you earlier. So that's an expense that they need to cover. They also would give out trophies or some types of awards at their competition, which comes at a cost. And then typically they cover the volunteer lunches, because we want our volunteers to come back. And if we feed them well and treat them well, they usually will come back to our competition. So one way that you can raise money for your school and your programs would be to possibly host a tournament. So if you're interested in hosting a competition, that's something that Shelley and I or Luann would be happy to talk with you about and assist you with. And then if you do have prepaid team registrations through your brigade, this would be a perfect time for you to be able to register your teams and have it paid through your brigade. So as Shelley mentioned before, each brigade operates differently. So if your brigade has sent you information in the past about the competition and you've already received equipment, then I would feel that it's pretty sure that they have funds to help you with your registration fees. So if that's the case, it's really easy to get registered with us. The first step would be to create an account on robotevents.com. So you would just go to robotevents.com, click on the register button, and just answer a few questions. We find that it's typically easier if coaches and teachers use their school email addresses just to have everything in one location, but you can choose whatever email works best for you and then create a password that's pretty easy for you to remember, so you can use it throughout the season when you register for tournaments and other and upload competition logbooks and things like that. After you create your Robot Events account, you do need to complete a background check, and all of that is explained as you go through the steps and the materials that we have on our RAC library. Once your background check is completed, that's when you're actually able to register your teams. So you'll go through the process of naming your team, selecting a team number, and then you'll go to the cart and check out for the number of teams that you are registering for the season. If you are needing to pay with a purchase order from your school, or if you are going to be asking your brigade to have those marked as paid for you through their system, then at checkout, you select pay later. And you don't have to pay at that moment, but it registers your team and gets them in the system. It will give you an invoice. At that point, you can download an invoice, or you will see the order or the invoice number pop up on your account, and it will give you your team numbers. Once you have that, we have an Asana form that we have listed on this slide that you would complete, and it would go to our contacts with the JROTC brigades, so they can verify if the funding is there for your teams to be paid through their system. And you would complete that form, and someone would contact you to let you know if that was covered through your brigade.
And on that, another thing that I just heard today is that a lot of the brigades, even though you maybe got 3 drones, it's typical for you to receive 3 or 4 drones, and so that would be 3 or 4 teams in our world. That's what we would expect, but they may have only allowed 1 team registration. However, I was told by the person who organizes all of this that not everybody claims those. So
Mhm.
it is very likely that you could get multiple team registrations through the brigades. So even if you don't know, do this process, fill out the form. I mean, the worst thing that they can do is tell you that you're not covered, and then Nadine and I can work with you to figure out a way to come up with some money.
Thank you, Shelley.
Okay, next steps. All right, so what do you need to do first? Well, first probably was just what we talked about, is getting your
Mhm.
teams registered. But we have lots and lots and lots of resources. All right, so there are multiple websites. RECF.org is one that Nadine put in the chat a little bit ago, and then aerial drone competition. That takes you to the main page for the REC Foundation's aerial drone competition. That is going to link you out to our knowledge base. And that's what you're seeing on the screen right now. The resource library or knowledge base can be found at kb for knowledge base.recf.org. And you can go there and then choose aerial drone competition, and you will see the library, and it's set up in divisions like this. So you've got getting started, coaches and teams, competition, event partners, and volunteers is listed under there as well. Equipment, forms and policies, and then other information. Other information is scholarships and internships and all kinds of things. So you'll definitely want to go in and explore through each of these categories in the REC Foundation Library. And then you reach out to us if you have questions along the way. And we know that you're going to have questions along the way, so we expect that. Don't ever hesitate. We actually can be reached in multiple ways. Starting off with email is usually the best way. And then, drones@recf.org. Nadine just put in the chat. If you don't know who your regional support manager is or what region that your state may be located in, then send the email to drones@recf.org, and then you will be filtered to the right person. So that's the easiest way to do it. Once we get that and we respond to you, then you will be able to reach us, by phone, text message, carrier pigeon, setting up a calendar invite and doing a Google Meet through, with us on an individual basis or with your team. There's a lot of options there, but know that we are always at your service. Here are those websites. So to email recf.org, the links drones@recf.org. To purchase your drones, robolink.com. So REC does not sell drones, just like the NCAA does not sell basketballs. All right, Robolink is going to be the vendor that provides the drones. Now, if you happen to have Parrot Mambos on the shelf, Parrot Mambos were legal a few years ago for the aerial drone competition, and they are still a legal option if you have them available. Just know that those can be used as well. So Codrone EDU, as well as a Parrot Mambo. Those are the two legal drones for this competition. To purchase game and field elements, dronecompetitiongates.com is the vendor that provides those elements. They also kind of cross over, even though they're two completely different companies. There are some ways, like you could go to Robolink and that you could get access to ordering the field elements and vice versa. Creating a team, recf.org is where you're going to go for all of the REC Foundation programs. The best creating a team resources are going to be in the library, and that is the kb.recf.org, and then go to getting started, and then the area for coaches and teams. Registering your team, robotevents.com. This is the website where you will manage, think about like .org is our nonprofit side, and then .com is where money is exchanged. This is where you're going to be registering for events, and you're going to be paying your team registration fees each year. If you decide to host a tournament, this is also where you're going to be posting your tournament so that other teams can sign up for your tournament. And it's where you will have access through an administrative link if you're running a tournament, you will have access to team contacts so that you can reach out to teams in your area. And then registering for competitions, again, robotevents.com, choose competitions on the top bar, on the sort of on the right, the left of the top bar, and go to aerial drone competitions. Very similar to what you did with this webinar, in choosing the workshops and camps. We are going to be offering ongoing webinars and office hours as well to support your efforts throughout the season. So you can always check on robotevents.com under workshops and camps to see the latest of those that are being offered. We do have one coming up in November that you'll probably be interested in. That is, we're bringing in someone from the FAA who is going to be talking about the different tests and certifications and how, as a teacher, you know, what information that you can share with your students. And that is a wrap. So we are an official testing service for the trust certification. So students can take this test through the REC website. There's also the co-drone pilot certification. These should go in the notebook. One thing that Nadine mentioned, and it reminded me that I didn't say during the communications, is about the logbook. The logbook can either be digital or it can be a physical notebook. Each tournament is going to require different ones. So you want to be sure that you read very specifically on what they're asking for. If they're asking for a digital notebook, then you will submit a link. If they are asking for a physical notebook, then you're going to submit a book. But what if they ask for the physical and you've been doing the digital? Okay, print it out and bring it with you. Vice versa. What if you've been doing the physical notebook, but they're asking for a digital? Championships pretty much are digital, because in order to judge all of the really great logbooks that they're going to have at the championship event, they need a head start. So they'll ask you to submit those beforehand. So if you have been working with a physical notebook and you need to convert it to digital, you're just going to scan the pages, all the pages, and then you're going to save that as a PDF and then upload it through Robot Events. All of these are uploaded through Robot Events. They are considered they belong to the team, so they are only shared with judges and people who have the authority to be able to see them. All right, so we're going to open it up for questions. I'm going to stop the recording at this time.